Welcome to Beauties and Beasties, the independent pest podcast of the UK.
Hello.
How are you, man? How are you?
I'm doing very well. I see you've dialed in from the dungeon today.
Well, I did have the light on, but the light was so bright that it was like bam. It made my head look even more baldy. So we've decided not to go with the baldy look. Yeah.
You get a little halo above your head from the shine.
Yeah, something like that. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Had a good week. I was up in Derby for a couple of days for a BPCA board meeting, and then just over to Widnes to go visit the factory after that. So all in all, been a very productive week actually. Lots of travel. It's about, well, SatNav says it's about 3.5 hours back from Liverpool back to where I live. That is a lie. I've never done it in less than 6. So there we go. But other than all the driving, it's been a good week, I have to say. How about yours? What excitement have you got up to?
Worst week I've ever had.
There we go.
Like fucking had a van broken into last night. Just to be honest with you, it's not that bad. It's just, you know, when all the little shit mounts up to a point where I was even taking, like I didn't even look at social media because there was the little things were fucking winding us up, and you usually like water off a duck's back. I was standing there, I was thinking, like, I could feel myself wanting to bite. I thought, oh, this isn't any good, this. So I'd like calm myself down, and then I got a phone call this morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning off Dale, one of the lads, and he was like, oh, the week started off brilliant. So I went up and saw I'll say mine, it's Dale's bird of prey, but the business bird of prey fly for the first time, and that was bloody good. And then we went down to Manchester for the MPT on the road day. Interestingly, 2 coincidences happened on the MPT on the road day, because the BPCA put another event on at exactly the same time online. So
really?
There's obviously, I don't know who's doing it first. I really genuinely don't. I don't care. I think it's a fucking bad show. But the event was really good. There's some fucking brilliantly interesting talks. Rob Simpson done one on sales, which was a bit Marmite. The people who got it, and the people who didn't get it, and are never going to get it, if that makes sense, you know.
They are the best talks, in my opinion.
Fucking right, yeah. If you wanted a different perspective on sales, that talk. Graham Turner was there. We had a good chat with him because obviously he's leaving to go to Nurture. There's some really interesting stuff. Who else give a good talk? Thingy from MVU give a brilliant talk on uncommon insects, which is like, it's not my cup of tea, but it was still a very interesting talk. And some others. So yeah, and then the week just fucking descended, didn't it? And then van broken into, and just want to headbutt someone.
Well, it's over now.
My teeth
almost a weekend.
The light. My teeth aren't green. It is just like the green.
The Beauties and Beasties background doing you dirty.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sort this light. I'll get a light in front of us so I don't look like a weirdo next week, I promise.
Oh, it's all coming together. You're getting all the influencer set up. You're going to get the little bit going on there. But I was about to say, like,
so hang on a second. This is what I wanted to say. It's rife everywhere. Don't know how true this is, but I've been told that pest controllers' vans are being targeted. That it was either Contigo or Virgo or whatever it is. They've had 5 vans done. That they believe that they were following.
Oh, we just lost Sean midway through his exciting story. We'll get him back to that in just a second. But while we wait for Sean to come back, do have to say I've been catching up on some of our other, the other industry podcasts recently. Pestrogen, Coast to Coast. Oh, he's back.
Yes, It was doing this last week. That's why you lost it. So if you lose it again, I don't know why it's doing it.
Okay, finish your story. You're saying Virgo, spate of vans being followed.
I might be wrong. I can't remember which big firm it was, but they said they've had like 5 vans done in a week. They've got scumbags actually following pest controllers' vans home to do them. I think they were looking for the telemetry in response to birds of prey or whatever it was. But yeah, and then you speak to people and they reckon vans are getting walloped. Like not just pest control, any vans, but if they jump onto a particular thing, they're smashing them.
What kit do we have in our vans that is,
so out of our vans, it was mainly power tools, so impact driver, drill,
yeah,
that sort of stuff. Took it. If anyone gets off, I had one of the big Avix lasers. Yeah.
I was about to say, because in my mind immediately went to, who wants a DR5 full of highly itchy powder that's got a very poor resale value? We're looking for guns, maybe. Yeah, that could be it. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe out there. Don't don't
take your shit out of your van. I am not that man. I tend to just fly by the seat of my pants. Like we've had a big rethink because I think once they've done a one as well and they know, they're fucking actively hunting and targeting you, aren't they?
Yeah. So make sure, and the other thing with that as well, for your insurance claims, make sure that you list your tools on there and keep a record of the serial numbers on your tools, because a lot of the time your insurance companies will ask for either proof that you have them or an inventory of what's been stolen. So do a quick recce. It doesn't lessen the pain that you've lost your shit, but at the same time, if it helps you get that back in one way or another, keep an inventory, keep the serial numbers, and if they're ever recovered, then you have an opportunity to get them back.
So this is just quickly, because I don't want to eat into cat's time, but this is how I feel at the minute. You've got to a point where working men don't want to sign right the vans for fear of this happening. We rang the police. The police, those 5 vans in the locality done. Do you know what the police's advice was? Do your own research on Marketplace to look for your stolen gear. They didn't send anyone out. They're not sending anyone out. They can send 2 detectives to a granny for 30 words, but they can't send a police officer to thousands and thousands of pounds worth of gear that's been nicked. They are fucking useless. And Keir Starmer put us in jail for telling the truth. The police are fucking useless. Exactly. But that's me off my high horse. I've had a shit week. It's going to get a hell of a lot better because we have. Boom.
We have. But very quickly, I just wanted to finish my story, which is I've been catching up on other. Running straight over me there, you son of a monkey. So basically, I said I've been catching up on some of our podcasts. People that we've had on, people who had chatting. So. The Pestrogen crew been catching up on that backlog. That's been great. Andy and Gabe from Coast to Coast been catching up on them. Tales from the Crawl Space just started to work my way into those. And of course, the Pest Posse, Foster and Cully. So with those, there's a lot of there's more. And of course, the other UK Pest podcast, which is the Pest Perspective by Sean. There's quite a few of them out there. When Sean and I started this, we started it because there was not a huge number of podcasts available for people to listen to. But actually, there are more and more now. And I don't know, if you structure it right, you've probably got enough content to at least do one morning every day of the week now, if you want to listen to something. So and of course, if anyone knows any others that might be useful or might be interesting, stick them in the chat now, because at the very least we may be able to just get them on. So there we go. But without further ado, shall we, as you say, introduce our next guest? So who have we got, Sean?
We've got Kat from the Pink Pest Controller, who I believe the people from Pestrogen were talking about with her in our podcast. Might have been Kat, might not, but we'll find that out.
We'll find out in a minute. And serendipitously enough, it's International Women's Day tomorrow. So congratulations, Kat. You are on. There we go. And I grew my hair out, especially for it. So
I feel honoured that you've made that effort.
Of course. Yeah, I forgot to mention as well. We've got our good friend from the African Pest Control Association. If anyone wants to go back and listen to that podcast, that was an excellent one as well. So hello to you guys over there. And as Hugh points out, I've forgotten one as well. We've got Bug Bucks coming on to do a podcast with us. So excellent stuff. But Kat, aside from that, please introduce yourself to the group.
So I'm Kat. I am approaching 40 this year, which I'm still not happy about.
Same here.
I thought so. Yeah, I have currently working 2 jobs. I'm a serving prison officer still, dealing with other sorts of pests that I don't get to kill, sadly. Well, they need thinning out a little bit. I come from a hunting and shooting background. So my dad was a terrierman, so I grew up with working dogs, guns, out doing working animals.
Awesome.
Would love a bird of prey. I'm trying to persuade my other half that it is a necessary business addition.
Oh, it absolutely is, though, isn't it? I think everyone that we've had on to talk about birds of prey have said nothing but, excellent stories. The amount of sort of like joy, companionship, and value that they add to the business as well. So, highly recommended. Absolutely. But how did you get to pest control? Because hunting, the hunting background makes sense. That's a fairly sort of like, we get a lot of recruitment from farming and gamekeeping, taking the plunge to become full-time pesties. But of course, then we have the prison service on the other side. So what came first, and why did you find yourself in pest management?
So I've been a prison officer for 7 years. In that 7 years, the prison service has gone to shit, I think is the best way of putting it. It's massively changed since I started. It's not the job I started doing, and it's an unpopular opinion, far too pro-prisoner now. It's staff have lost loads of their powers, for making independent decisions, and I've just had enough. So a friend of mine's my best mate's mum is a pest controller. She's took me out with her a few times, and I was like, actually, I really enjoy this. So there we are. That's my change of career.
Well, let me just ask you a quick question, because I'm sure I know the answer. But you went out a couple of times. What was it about pest management, going out a couple of times? What was the moment that you stood there and you thought, actually, not just sort of like, this is something I can do, that crystallizing moment when you thought, this is something I'd enjoy doing, I mean,
actually, yeah, a couple of times probably is inaccurate. I was her apprentice rat catcher for most of last summer. And I like I've used to take my terriers out killing rats. I like the detective work of working out that bit. Yeah.
It's the problem solving. I think that's what pulls most people in. So yes, to continue with your story.
Yeah, she took me out, and I really got into it and thought, and also, I know there are female pest controllers, but there's not swarms of us. And I thought, well, there is a little niche that's sort of available.
I'd say, and just to touch on that, how do you find? Because we've had several female pest controllers on and male, and it's always interesting to hear the difference in perspective. So how did you find your movement into the industry from that perspective? Was there any barriers to entry, or?
No, I think 99% of people have been supportive. Like I've got local pest controllers that will pass me work on if they can't fit it in. Most people have been good. I've had a few snooty comments on some of the Facebook groups, but I'm a prison officer. I'll match your energy, so it's not a problem.
That sounds like a challenge. So we'll go with that one. But yes, there we go. So into pest control. So how long have you been in the pest management? So how long have you owned your own company for?
So what I initially planned to do was last summer do my insecticide course and do wasps for the summer to raise the money to do my full level 2. As we all know, last summer was pants for wasps. So I ended up just having to bite the bullet and went to my dad and I was like, can I borrow some money? And I did my level 2 through Lodi with Debbie Wilson. And then probably August last year, I think, was when I kind of went out properly on my own.
Okay. How was that?
It's okay. I still ring my best mate's mum every now and then going, so just give me a little bit of advice, because I don't know everything after a few months, so I will ask for help when needed.
That's perfect. And actually, I think that's a real commendation to our industry, really, because I can't think of any other industries around where you can phone up someone who is ostensibly your competitor and say, hey, I know I've got a bit of a blind spot here. What can you teach me about, rats, moles, mealybugs, spaghetti monsters from the sky? And generally speaking, everyone will sort of like be happy to share their knowledge and experience. I don't know about that. How have you guys found that?
So I had my first delusional parasitosis case not long into it. And it was a lady that lives in the village, in my village. And I was kind of like, as soon as she started saying about them being in her hair, I was like, okay, I think I know where this is going. Bugs everywhere. And Chris Venables of Venables Pest Control is not far from me. And I knew he had all the bed bug stuff, if needed. And I also thought, I know I'll get him over. And I wanted to see how he managed that delusional parasitosis thing without, obviously we're not medically qualified to sort of say to them that they're not well. So yeah, that was good little learning experience for me, getting to watch him handle that one professionally with tact.
Yeah, it's always a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you approach it? Well, I mean, Sean, you did the podcast with I've forgotten the lady's name now, but the doctor who dealt exclusively in delusional parasitosis. What did you take away from that?
That was you and Hugh. We've had a few. We've had a few. Yeah, just it depends on the person you're dealing with. We find some of them very quickly, if you make the suggestion, they'll accept it. They'll go, I understand. I'm not saying you've got this. What I'm saying is, this is something I've heard about. And they'll go, I think I've got that. Yeah, there's something going on. I'm getting stressed out. Gail Ridge, that was the name of the lady. And then there's others where there was one woman where Ella said to me, I thought she was going to try and scratch your eyes out your head. Because she was that determined that she wanted us to spray, but absolutely mental. But it's usually linked. What I can find is, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, we tend to find that it's usually women who are older on their own and are incredibly house proud. And we've had one man who's had it, but the man who had it worse than anyone else. And it was exactly as you said, Lex, the man that you had it. He was sleeping naked on top of a table to try and stop them getting to him. Am I echoing?
A little bit, yes. But we're all good. Yeah, while Sean sorts out his technical difficulties, I'll tell you probably one of the funniest and scariest instances of delusional parasitosis I've ever encountered was when I was working for a previous company. I had a phone call. What can you sell us that will kill fireflies? I was like, what? Why do you want to kill fireflies? They're beautiful little beasties. Why do you want to do that? She's like, and I was like, just out of interest as well, fireflies are not that common in the UK. So whereabouts are you? She's like, I'm over in Newbury. And I was like, that's amazing. There shouldn't be any fireflies in Newbury. You found something, it's a marvel. You should report this to sort of like the authorities post-ends. But with that, she said, well, it's not very much the lighting up that is upsetting me. It's the noise that they make. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, okay, I'll be honest, it's not so much the noise, but it's the language that they're using. And to which point I was like, pardon? And she's like, yeah, every time I turn the lights off, I can see them in the next room flashing around, effing and blinding and using the C word. And I'm like, okay, this isn't fireflies. So I was like, hold fire, where are you? What's your name? Where? And I was like, I don't know what to do here. So on a hunch, I phoned up, I found, she gave me her address and I found the nearest GP and said, can we do a welfare check on these people? Because this doesn't sound great. And I got through to their GP, who gave me an absolute bollocking. How dare you, who do you think you are? Little old pest controller, sort of like doing this. Anyway, about a week later, 2 weeks later, get a phone call from the same GP being like, I'm so sorry. What's happened here is her name is like Alice Milne or something like that, and her husband's name is Andrew Milne, and somehow they've both got dementia, and somehow A. Milne has signed off as the primary carer for A. Milne, and A. Milne has signed off for the primary carer as A. Milne, and so basically this elderly couple, both have dementia. Both their primary carers, neither ensuring that either one was taking their medication. They said, we turned up and she was like half a second away from just setting fire to the house to get rid of the bad-tempered fireflies. I'm like, oh my God. So, yeah, sometimes delusional parasidosis, more than bugs in your hair. There we go. Well, we all had those stories. Go on, Kat. Give us your favourite pest control story today. Not necessarily the scariest one or the one with fireflies trying to burn the house down. What's been your favourite pest management job that you've done so far?
I like my mole trapping. I know people hate mole
Really?
trapping. I know people that can't stand it. I like it. I like wandering around in a field poking holes in the ground.
I imagine it's very therapeutic up until the point that it's sloshing it down with rain, in which case...
Yeah, when they've all
very
refilled
different.
themselves where it's rained that much, yeah, that's not my favourite part, but...
Go on then.
Do you know what it is? Hang on a second. I'm just thinking, we had Matthew Price and Alan Jones on who, if you like your mole trapping, if you think you're good, still go and do a course with them, because I was like that, and then you go with them and they're phenomenal. I was just thinking, every subject we've spoke about tonight, we've had someone on for that subject, haven't we?
It does feel like we're very much plugging ourselves at the moment. I think we've hit critical mass. I think we've done it, Sean.
Yeah.
We've covered everything, and now we need to go back around to the beginning.
Yeah.
So, come on. So, if we're talking about moles, then come on, from your perspective, and this is the big question. I'm sure Matthew's going to wade in on this, but what's your favourite mole trap? What's the mole trap that you've got?
Pretangs.
With
They're my
every
favourite.
time?
Yeah, every time. Favourite ones.
Great. Yeah. Now, here's the big question, though, with your pretangs. Do you use the little scissors, or do you have the little sort of like key breaker tool?
I've got the scissors, yeah, the other way around, plier jobs.
Can you remember Matthew's story about the Talpex?
I remember a story, and I remember him almost losing a testicle to one. Is that right?
At the end of his old man, he was sat there squeezing it in his lap and let go.
See, I know Matt, and now I'm not going to be able to look at him the same.
There we go. Oh, we've got loads of folks on tonight. This is absolutely wonderful. Okay, so we've got Clive actually. I think, and guys, don't forget to get your comments in, because we're going to have I can feel it in my bones tonight. This is going to be a very sort of like rambunctious, that's a good word, isn't it, episode. So get your questions in the comments as soon as you can. But Clive's kicking us off straight away. He's asking about bees. You do any bees?
I do not. I don't touch bees personally. I like bees. I did have somebody ring me yesterday about bee removal. Thank you for that, Matt. That's an image I didn't need. And I point them in the direction of the British Beekeepers Association. It's not something I do myself.
No, that's good. And of course, that is a really good sort of group. There's UK Bee Removers on Facebook. It's a fantastic group. If you're a pest manager that is conscientious about bees and the removal of bees. But there we go. Now, just very quickly, I'm going to get Sean to read this one out. Sean's just put up a comment from our good friend Jasmine from Photo Lake. What's Jasmine telling us?
Jasmine says it's another reason to encourage more women into the industry that can't lose a testicle. In all fairness, as he said, I didn't actually get his testicle. I got it right on the end. You know, the really sore bit. Got him there.
I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to say that when it's a Talpex, every part of that anatomy constitutes a sore bit. There is no acceptable region to catch a Talpex on.
No.
So there we go. Oh, so Kat, with this, so you don't do bees, but is there any parts that you're relatively new into the industry? Is there anything that you desperately want to sort of like try your hand at, but haven't quite mustered up the courage to do?
Don't do a lot of insect stuff. A lot of mine tends to be vertebrates. I have never done a bed bug job, and that's one I would like to do, but I don't want to do at the same point. They just they make me feel itchy thinking about it, but I'd like some experience doing that one.
I can't explain that.
First off, I was going to say, Kat's like the female version of me, isn't she?
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's probably why this podcast is already descending into chaos and mayhem already. So why do you want to do bed bugs? And when you've answered that, why do you not want to do bed bugs?
I think it's just, obviously it's something that only really pest controllers can solve for people. People can try home remedies, but it's very much a professional's job. And Yeah, it's a bit like, because I do a bit of deer stalking, and it's like ticks on deer. They give me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that only we could do it, because I a couple of years back wrote a couple of articles for Witch magazine and bits and bobs, and the lovely lady from Witch magazine phones me up every so often to ask for advice, but she passed my number on to another one of her colleagues around about the time we had that big bedbug furore at the Paris Olympics, and he phoned up and he's like, yes, what can homeowners do about bed bugs? And I was like, oh, the best thing a homeowner can do is get a shiny 1 penny piece, put it next to what they think the bed bug is, take a picture of it, and then send it to a professional pest controller. He was like, oh, that's really interesting. So how about, I've heard if you mix cider vinegar, and I was like, nope, professional pest controller. Nope. Then he's like,
No.
What about baking soda? And I was like, yes, if that baking soda comes in a can of professional pest controller. And like, this conversation was so cyclical. I was like, honestly, 1 penny piece, this 1 penny trick that can save you thousands of pounds and months worth of irritation. Send it to a professional. Because as you say, it's one of the few pests out there that genuinely, it's going to be near on impossible. Yeah.
I think if I was you and I was starting off, I would absolutely consider doing them properly, because I think the numbers of them, even in the time I've been, are becoming more and more, and I think that we're getting them big style now, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think where I do a lot of, I'm kind of semi-rural, I don't get lots of call for them, but I mean, I'm going to get them at some point.
We're gonna have a good training a dog in the spring. We're getting a pup. Is my still echoing with these on?
A little bit. You're not echoing. You just sound like you're sat in a box, which is fine. I think I can deal with it. Unless people in the comments want to give you some significant abuse, in which case I'm all right with that too. So there we go. What was I about to say? It was something fascinating, I have absolutely no doubt. And then Sean derailed me. Kat, continue. Like you were telling us, the things that you want to get into. You want to get into bed bugs. What else? What else is on the roster of the wish list for things to learn about?
Like I said, I've always wanted a bird of prey ever since my dad had them, so I've wanted one since I was yay tall, and now I'm like, maybe I've actually got an excuse. But I came home with a puppy 6 weeks ago, and I gave my other half 48 hours notice, so I probably shouldn't push my luck too far at the minute.
I don't know. How well did that work? I mean, does he love the puppy?
I came home ready for World War III, loaded for bear, and he just sort of went, for fuck's sake. I was like, is that it? Is that the only pushback I'm getting? I mean, I gave him some notice. I didn't just come home with it. I should get credit for that one.
Yeah, which only goes to prove that if you just turn up with a bird of prey, what? It's just say that it's to keep the puppy entertained. What?
Yeah. I've got chickens. I could just be like, no, it's a really angry chicken. Honest.
Come on,
we call
Sean,
I was going to say, we call Dale's bird of prey's XL pigeon. The XL bully's got banned. We were like, Dale's got an XL pigeon. It's not his arm being aggressive.
So we've got the sort of like the chaos chicken, the XL pigeon. There we go. That sounds actually perfect. Go on, Sean. You must have some questions. I feel like I've spoken too much.
So you got into pest control from pretty much from hunt service, or relatively close to hunt service. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you going to plan on using what you've known from the past and what you're going to do? Because there's definitely going to be skills there that you've got that you can turn into. This is what I would say to you. The skills that you've got to learn to embrace them. The worst thing we did was we tried to be pest controllers from the start. I would strongly say that if you do what you do well, you'll fly. So what you do well and how are you going to use it?
Ooh. Like I said, I think my moles are probably my strongest point at the minute. I've not had huge amounts of work. I'm not going to pretend I've been flat out, because I haven't been. I always think that trapping is more of a skill. Like, I'd love to learn how to snare. I don't really want to use snares, but I'd love to learn how.
Where do you live?
What?
No, she stopped.
She stopped.
She stopped.
Set
She
snare
stopped.
properly.
Oh,
Where do you live?
Dragon.
I'm back. Are you back? Sean's back.
Where do you live, Kat? Where do you live, Kat?
Just outside Cheltenham.
Oh, you're too far. Yeah, I couldn't show you how to set the snare. It's not rocket science.
But there
do
is
you know,
an art.
yeah. Do you know what it is? It's as easy as setting a mole trap when you know what you're doing. And basically, my advice to you is whatever you read in a book, do the total opposite. I promise you, you know, if you do the total opposite, if you put it on the bounce, not in the middle of the bounce, if you put it at a little bit higher than you thought, you'll be about right. And same as a mole trap set on a straight run, you'll catch him. There's a guy called Glenn Waters. Have you heard of him?
Name rings a bell, but yeah, I can't.
So he wrote a book called, I think it's The Art of Snaring or something like that. I asked him to come on here, but Glenn's watching this. He's a miserable old jock, and he said no. But he wrote a book, and if you want to know how to set a snare, I promise you now, if you read his book, it's like the 1, 2, 3 of how to set a snare, and you will catch them. And that's exactly what Matthew says there. And I say this to everybody, and especially to yourself. If you go and you learn how to catch moles, the trapping principles are exactly the same for setting a snare as they are for setting a mole for setting a mole trap, setting a whatever it is. It's the same fucking principles, and once you've got them right, you'll catch them. Like Glenn's not PC enough for live air, but Glenn is definitely not, and that's why we want him on. He's a proper miserable old jock, but he's like, he wrote the book, and his book is the only book worth reading on snaring, in my opinion. Wrote one on snaring foxes as well. Fucking very, very, very fucking brilliant. You know, these guys are the guys that will go out and catch like 150 rabbits in snares in a night, one snare, one rabbit type thing. Really fucking clever boys. But yeah, so, snaring's not rocket science.
I've always thought that when we see like published material about pest control, the best ones by far are always those that kind of like fall into the category of like the bushcraft, sort of like the old techniques, if you see what I mean, the art of trapping, the art of sort of like chasing honey badgers. There is a lot of sort of like historic skill that we're doing, because it's a profession that has been around for a very long time. And the funny thing is we carry on inventing things that we think are brand new, and in fact have been around for a very long time. With the exception of some of the chemicals we use, a lot of the pest control methodologies and thought processes have been around for a very long time. So it's interesting to see some like these nuggets of information. But it's interesting that you say you're from Cheltenham, because of course if you cross the border into Wales, it all changes for snares, doesn't it, at that point? Yeah, you've got to be careful about that.
I try to not travel that far. I definitely wouldn't be traveling that far to snare stuff.
Yeah, but I know it's one of those funny things that because we're a devolved nation, actually, that we can get tripped up sometimes because Wales banned glue boards before anyone else, and you still can't use. I believe you can't use glue boards in Wales even under license. I seem to believe, someone will correct me with that. And so all the devolved nations have a slightly different take on a lot of our sort of like bits of legislation. So for those living on the borders between two of our devolved nations, it's got to be a nightmare. Like left side of the vans for Wales and the right side of the vans for England. And if I go up to Scotland, it's just whatever I can put in the cabbie on the roof. There we go.
It's funny though, isn't it? That, like Matthew raises this point. It's fucking true, isn't it? And I think you fall into that as well, Kat. Seems to be two sort of ways into pest control, doesn't there? There's the old poacher, there's a youngster, and then there's the sort of the rent-a-kill methodology and through a big firm, isn't it? It's weird how it works out, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely think it's more the old poacher than the rent-a-kill route for me.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like we have a huge recruitment from the rural, the rurals into our industry. Usually from people who have worked as gamekeepers or illegitimate gamekeepers, poachers. For that
it's
amount
not
of
poaching; it's redistribution of stock. Poaching's a terrible word.
It's scrumping. You're just scrumping animals.
Animal scrumping.
Animal scrumping. You go into the city, it's urban scrumping. It's all
Correct.
the same thing.
Sounds much
Have
better.
you ever thought about? Yeah, you ever thought about doing rabbit control and fox control as part of your business and setting yourself up to do that?
Yeah, because I've got my FAC, eventually after 22 months of a fight with Gloucester Police. But yeah, so I am all ticketed up for doing it.
Yeah, but again, we had Simon Whitehead on, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
He's a professional rabbit catcher, and some of them contracts, if you can get them, are quite lucrative. You just got to be ballsy enough to go and get them. Prison work and hospital work and all that sort of stuff. And I would think that being a lady might be preferential because it's less intimidating than seeing a bloke walk around with ferrets and a lurcher. You know, I definitely wouldn't rule that sort of work out for yourself.
No.
You know. Yeah.
I do. There's one where the park is in our village. The one field next to it is absolutely crawling in rabbits, and we've gone and asked them if we can go and shoot them for them because they're literally trashing the park. And they're like, "Oh no, we've got someone that come and does it." And I'm like, "You did a good job."
Sorry. I've just realised, I don't mean to interrupt you, sorry, but 2 weeks on the trot now, I have said a funny British word that has meant something entirely different to our US audience, which is forever growing. And I don't know if it comes. Yeah. So before I read this comment out, Sean, Kat, what does scrumping mean? What does scrumping mean to you? If I say I'm gonna go scrump some apples, what does that mean to you?
Oh, scrumping definitely means sex to me. Does it mean sex to you, Kat? Definitely does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought he meant
sex. Yeah. Well, Andrew Senevsky says it means sex to him. It's just Alex, for some reason, keeps coming up with these sexual words on the podcast. I don't know why you would do that.
I dislike you intensely right now. Moving on. So, Kat, my next question to you is what's been no, that was badly timed and phrased, wasn't it? What's been the biggest challenge that you've faced so far in setting up for your pest management business? What's been the thing that you've struggled with the most?
I think all the equipment you have to buy and the training. Basically, the initial outlay for me was hard work. I now have no savings left.
Well, I was once told years ago that there was a company, and I'm not sure who it was, that would sell sort of like this really expensive pest management starter kit, but it included everything from like ULVs to DR5 to sort of like 50 boxes and the rest of it. Okay, and all of this, but of course you don't need all of the kit right away because a lot of the pests are. If anyone wants to watch back to this episode and to see some of the comments that are coming in, I need some love and support right now, as opposed to this. This is horrible. What I'm trying to say is you don't need to buy all of your pest control kit at the very same time. A lot of our pests are seasonal, and so a lot of pesties start off thinking that they need a duster, they need a compression sprayer, they need a ULV machine, they need to have all of these different types of traps. You know, if I'm going to do squirrels, I need this. But with this, actually, buy as you go, buy as you need. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting a lot of kit that you may not use for 6 months. And then when it comes around, suddenly, do you need it? Or is it out of date? I mean, so is that familiar with you, Kat? Or is it, do you just like the shiny kit?
Yeah, I have a shiny trap problem, yeah. No, I was very fortunate. I've got quite a lot of friends that are in pest control, and a friend of mine sold me a job lot of stuff that was mostly brand new. So I had a lot of things that I needed in one go, which wasn't. It was below market value. I'm going to put it that way. Really good of him because it really helped me out. But then I had all this stuff, and then the first job that I had that came through was moles, and I didn't have a single mole trap, and I was like, damn it. But now I end up on trap websites thinking, oh, I need more cage traps and squirrel traps and fen traps, and yeah, I just need to stop buying traps at the minute.
Does your garage look like an old sort of Tom and Jerry cartoon? There's just traps all over the floor, and
no, the traps are all in the kennel. The dog kennel is full of traps, and the garage is full of the things that I don't want to get trashed.
Where's the dog?
The dog.
The dogs are in the house. No, my partner built the dog kennel, and he's never had dogs in kennels, and you can tell. So yeah, the kennel needs rebuilding to actually be functional.
Is it very much a lap dog on the end of the bed already? All boundaries gone.
I know. Well, my terrier does, but no, the Sprocker is crated and he's being kept a bit more. I've got
to ask a question. What terrier you got?
Patterdale, obviously.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's it. I didn't want to ask out loud. I want to ask what terriers your dad had, but when you said it, I thought I could find out through her. Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up with bull crosses and patterdales. I think that sums it up.
That's what I've got. That's what I've got. Once you've had black, you won't go back. Yeah, that's it.
No.
Oh, yeah. That's true. It's true.
I'm going to give you shit for that.
No, what?
It's not going to give you shit for that. You know, that's outrageous. You can't say that. I can say the word scrumping and everyone's like, meh. And you say...
That's true. I promise you. Like it gets to a point, and Kat will probably understand this. My pal got a terrier and it was white. And it worked. It absolutely worked. I was in the kennel. I was like, what's it like? He's like, it's fucking brilliant. It never misses a beat. I was like, hey, he looked at me. And he just went, wrong colour though, innit? I was like, yeah. It's just the fucking wrong colour. Nobody,
you're like,
almost embarrassed. But it's been dug down 50 times this year and it's not missed a beat. It's fucking white. I don't want it, innit? Once you've had black, you won't go back. Black is... If you've got a black dog, you're about there, aren't you? We've got Kieran.
She's just wandered out now. She can obviously tell being spoke about.
We've got Kieran Sampler coming on. He keeps Lakeland, so he's like sort of halfway there, isn't he? Really, it's not fully there, but he's halfway there.
Yeah, it depends on what it is.
It's better than the Jack Russell, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's an improvement. I know Matt Price is going to be raging if he's got a white dog.
Do you know what it is? I know some of the people watching this have Jack Russells, and I know they'll be absolutely spitting feathers at us, but I don't care.
And for those of you who can't see the screens at the moment, we have a cat and a dog on screen, literally and metaphorically.
This is Effie.
Effie.
She is 10 this year, bless her.
Those aren't the eyes of a hunter. That's the eyes of a dog that likes to have a long sleep.
This is the eyes of the dog whose nose has been really put out of joint by the puppy turning up. She's not impressed with my bullshit at the minute.
They don't like it, do they? When a pup turns up and they do the total look of disdain and wander off and sit on their own in temper.
Yeah.
In total buck and protest.
Like she's my dog, but she's now my other half's best mate. She's like, well, you didn't bring that home, did you?
Yeah, exactly. Matt, see, you know what I'm saying about the white dogs? Matthew's got a Jack Russell. You see the comments from him. He's proper biting at that, and he's full on. Got him. I'm sure it's a lovely dog, Matthew. Just we don't want to own it.
Yeah, it's lovely, but you can keep it down in Cardiff.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to.
I've got to get off because I'm just insulting everybody who owns a Jack Russell, and that's not great, is it? Yeah.
Desperately trying to just steer you clear of insulting half of our listeners in one go here.
Fuck them, I don't like them. Yeah.
Stop, please.
So, where are you going to go with your business, Kat? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? What business do you want to run? Like, what's your goal?
I'm quite happy to just stay independent. I'm not bothered about employing anybody else. I'm still in the prison 2 days a week at the minute. I want to be at a point where I can go, bye prison, which I'm not there yet. But no, I'm just earn enough to keep myself comfortable. I don't need a big company that I can then sell on, and I'm not really interested in having people working for me because it just sounds like more stress, and I'm going for less stress-ish, marginally more.
I mean, being your own boss is probably one of the simultaneously most rewarding and most wildly stressful things that you can ever do. All of your successes are your own, but all of the responsibilities are also your own.
Yes.
And of course, running a business is more than just doing the work, isn't it? It's also having to do the marketing, be an ambassador for a brand. Be a telesalesperson, which I know so many people flat out hate. But Hugh asks a question, which Sean ask you.
Yeah, this is interesting. So someone who's setting themselves away, what turnover do you think you'll need to get to a point where you can be sort of self-sufficient on your own, hit your bills, be happy? Turnover.
So this is a good one because I am not the most business-headed person, which is not great for being your own boss. I know how much I need to make to cover my prison wage at the minute.
Yeah.
Which I'm only 18.5 hours a week, so it's not a huge amount. But yeah, I need to get to at least just be able to quit there. That would be my...
So if you quit, imagine you quit there, what do you think you need to hit? Like to be proper happy, not just that.
Proper happy. I want to be
Yeah.
in about £10 a month. I want to be proper happy because I could spend it all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, it's not something I need to probably sit and write myself a business plan and actually adult a bit better than I am. But
yeah, that's interesting because where do you go for the information on that? Where in our industry do you go to find information on how to write a business plan or how to, do a cash flow budget? There's not many places out there that will actually give you that kind of information, and it is a bit of a stumbling block because Sean and I have spoken before about so many small businesses think that they're doing well. In fact, they're just running a charity because that's it. But there's a limited support out there. So, I mean, who do you turn to, Kat? Because for me, this is a really interesting conversation that we're having because it's so wonderful to speak to someone who's so sort of like new into the business. We kind of forget a lot of the time those first steps that we all took.
So my aunt is a chartered accountant. She's also a managing director. So she'd be probably my first one for like business plans and things like that because that's what she's spent most of her working career doing, things like that. So yeah, she'd be my first port of call, and that also wouldn't cost me any money, which is also a handy one, not having to pay somebody to not another outlay.
This is an interesting one, and especially considering that your name, because you have a very unique name, and we're going to get on to how you came up with that name in a little bit. But someone on the YouTube channel has just asked, how are you advertising yourself? And being a pest management company, are you having a problem publicizing your company? So what's your plan?
So I've actually been looking at it this week because I'm trying to obviously get myself out there more than I am. I've been trying sort of social media, but I find that quite hard to actually like people say I'll post on local Facebook groups and things like that, which is fine, but then admin hasn't approved that post for like 5-6 days. And then you get people that don't read the posts and they start asking you about how much I charge to train their 4-month-old dog. And I'm like, nowhere does it say that I train dogs for a living. I mean, I can take your money, but your dog's probably going to come back exactly how it left you. I literally had something the other day and I was like, where did it say on that whole advert that I train dogs for a living? It does not say that anywhere. And obviously, being a prison officer for the last 7 years, I can be a little bit abrupt, and I'm very conscious that I can be quite abrupt. And I'm like, the customer is still not right, but you need to filter it a bit better.
I have an inward voice and I have a public voice, and this is an inward thought.
Yeah, see, I've had 7 years of my inward thoughts just coming straight out of my mouth, so now I have to be a little bit more public facing and not quite so rude.
Tell you what, here's a thing. Watch this. Everyone who's been in business is in business or is a pest controller in the comments. Put down, if you wouldn't mind, please, where you think the best place to get work from is, because this is proper interesting, isn't it?
So,
and I'm going to say, hang on a sec, let me put it in here.
Right, while you're writing, I'll tell you a story. So, a lady called Lulu, who, Cat's back. Lady called Lulu. She gave some talks for the MPTA last year before, and it was all around social media and marketing. And you'd be amazed as to how many pest controllers there were saying, "We don't use social media. We don't use social media. It's not, it's not how we." But in reality, social media is anything that you can access from your phone. It's socially consumable content. And it used to be in days gone by that if you were a village or your rural pest manager, it was all word of mouth. Someone had a job, they'd tell someone else. But since the COVID times, people don't go down to the pub and sort of like have that sort of like dialogue. Oh, I've got a problem with rats. The first place they go, in my opinion, is they go on their local Facebook group and they say, I've got a problem with, I've got a wasp nest in my garden. Who do you recommend? Chunk. it's still word of mouth, but it's not word of mouth down the pub or in the local shop. It's word of mouth on Facebook. And I think that's a really powerful tool that probably a lot of people don't necessarily utilize as well as they should. There we go. Word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth, all in the comments there. It's still word of mouth, but it's on a different medium. Guys, you know, Sean, Kat, what is your sort of like take on that?
I fucking hate Facebook. I do.
We say
hate it.
streaming live to Facebook.
I hate it. Well, not just for the customers. With Facebook, we find it. I need someone incredibly good, incredibly cheap now this second, and I won't settle for anything less. And you are a robber bastard if you do not work like that. And I hate Facebook. We went through it, and I think the one thing I'd say is you have to look at the metrics of what you're doing. So we went through, and I think we got like 1 in 20 jobs of the messages from Facebook. When you looked at the time you'd put into the other 19 jobs, the job that you got was probably worth nothing. So like our Facebook page is pretty much dead and buried now. Google, I got most of our work, like one-off work, comes from Google, and then it's just a case of the old compounding. So the longer we go, the more words you get. You know, the more word of mouth you get. When you start doubling that up, all of a sudden it starts coming in. Do you know what it is? Billy says local business groups. If you can go and do local networking, a lot of it's free. You will be surprised at the amount of work that will bring in for you, and it'll bring in the right work as well, I think. You know, because I think there's a big difference between getting work and getting the right work. You know, if you, I don't know, say you get a mold job and the bloke wants a fixed price, so you charge him, I don't know, fucking say, I'm going to get rid of that mold. It's 100 quid when you first start. You think 100 quid's fucking big bucks. I'm over the moon. But it gives you a bit of a run around, and you've got to go 4 times to catch it. And you're on 25 quid a visit, aren't you? By the time you've actually sat down and done your numbers, you're probably on less than minimum wage running around to solve his problem. And you've just got to be very careful that you don't end up paying to solve someone else's pest problem, which happened to me in the start a fucking awful lot. And then all of a sudden you're like, right, there's no money in that. We've got to look at what we're doing and go from there. But rural is different. Everyone's a DIY pesty. Yeah, but I don't know, like if I think rural, the first thing I would think for you, Kat, is I would absolutely look at moths. There's some big money in moths in them stately homes and things like that. You know, moths is a big one. You know, moles are good, but I would probably use that as an inner to get into people. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're talking to them, for fuck's sake, don't talk about moles. Talk to them about, you know, even if you make it up to start off with. I was dealing with a terrible moth job the other day because they were eating the really expensive carpets. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you do moths, do you? Yeah. And you'll be surprised. Even now we get people that we've got a contract for and we've done for years. And they'll go, oh, I got so-and-so out to do the wasps. And you'll be like, what? And they'll be like, oh, we thought you just did rats and mice. And you're like, no, I fucking don't.
I've you know,
yeah,
you'll
find that.
It's mad.
Yeah, you've just got it. Moths will be, we get lots of moths which are rural. What else? Rats, obviously. And the good thing about rural is you've got detached properties, so you can normally give them a long-term solution, can't you? Rather than terraces and fucking semi-detached and that. You've got,
So, Kat, we're talking about marketing. We're talking about avenues. You have what I think is one of the better, if not best, names I've seen for a little while, the Pink Pest Controller. How did you get there?
So I didn't want it as my name because I am engaged and I'm getting married next year. So I thought I don't want to set it up as my surname. You know, I don't want to be Kat Rogers Pest Control because I'm not going to be Kat Rogers forever, hopefully, unless he divorces me and I turn up with a bird of prey.
So it depends how many birds of prey you bring home, but there we go.
Yeah. And I'm not the girliest of girls. I'm obviously into my shooting, I'm into my hunting. I used to rally drive. I'm not really very feminine, but I thought, you know, if we're going to do gender stereotypes, pink is the lady colour, isn't it? And I thought, well, if I'm set up as that, it's my wasp suit is one of those Oz Armour ones. It is bright pink. You cannot lose me in a crowd of beekeepers, however hard you try. You are going to
Yeah.
be mentally scarred after you've seen it. And I thought, if you see somebody on a ladder out the front of a house doing a wasp nest in that, you're not going to forget, oh, who's that pink pest controller? Ta-da! There we are.
Not a pink pest controller, it's the pink pest
Not just
controller.
any pink pest controller, the pink. But yeah, it started off with the wasp suit and then snowballed.
No,
I like it.
You basically say it all started. Sorry,
I was going to say I like it because you get that double hit because you're quite clearly not the pink gender stereotype. So people who like that thing will get you, and then they'll be like, "Oh, it's Cat, she's still a lady, it's fine." And then the blokes will be like, "Oh no, she might say she's the pink pest controller, but she's selling her dad's a terrierman from down there." So I think you'll hit them with a double whammy with that. I really like it. And I would, in most cases, I would fucking hate it if the girl was like a prissy little girl and called herself a pink pest controller. I would just not like it. But I think it works for you. Yeah.
My other half was like, I don't even like pink. I was like,
yeah. Yeah, I like it. Pink pest control, yeah.
And I also thought, if with it not being my name, if it ever got to a point where I could sell the company, I'm not selling. It's a company name, not a personal name.
And actually, I think you've hit on something really important there, which is it's that separation between person and business. A lot of people are unable to disentangle themselves from the business. You work for a company, even if you own that company, you work for that company. And as you quite rightly pointed out there, if you ever want to sell that company, if it's got your name in it, it feels like you're selling sort of like you. But of course, Pink Pest Controller is a company, it's an entity, and you work for it diligently. We all assume, and there we go. But I know, again, it kind of brings back, because it touches on a really good point, because we spoke, when I'm talking about like some of the really, really early chats that Sean and I had, about how do you mentally get into the mindset of charging people money, because it feels as though if you've just done this job for this sort of like little old lady down the street that doesn't appear to have two pennies to rub together, it can be very difficult to sort of like say, can you now pay me? But of course, if it's the company doing it, the company's one thing. The company's got bills to pay, it's got employees to feed, and all of that. So yeah, and Lulu, who beforehand I was mentioning, who did all of the road shows on marketing for the MPTA last year, and I think the year before, gives you, there we go, big thumbs up, brilliant marketing.
Thank you.
And Lulu does a tremendous amount of marketing and other bits, so not just for the pest control sector, but for many other sectors, including branches of government as well. So that is a ringing endorsement there. But there we go. So what else have we got to ask? I feel like we've got so many questions here. We need to sort of like
tell you what I haven't asked about, which I want to know about. I've got this thing about people with a talent, whether it's singing or whatever it is. I love people who have something that is incredibly different. And I've had a look at some of your artwork.
Okay.
It's proper good, isn't it?
Yes.
Have you got any? You haven't got any samples there, have you, to show people?
No, I haven't. If I was down in the studio, I would have, but no, I'm in the kitchen at the minute.
Go on and tell about drawing then, because it's usually, I find that's usually genetic. Is that a mom dad thing or what?
My mum used to be a reasonable artist. She doesn't do anything now, but I was told all through my GCSEs that I was going to fail art, so I was like, and went and got an A star.
Yeah.
Do you suspect there might have been an element of reverse psychology in that? Not.
No, not me. Calm and reasonable, honest.
I wasn't hoodwinked by my secondary school teacher into doing well. Not at all.
No,
That doesn't sound like anything.
She very much had her favourites in the class, and I wasn't one of them.
That's fair enough. I wasn't my art teacher's favourite either, but for different reasons. I was genuinely shit at art. So there we go.
Do you think that any of that pushback at school was because of what your dad did, out of interest? So
Dad was at the Beaufort, and then we left the Beaufort and moved down to Cornwall, which I hated. Unpopular opinion, absolutely hated it down there. And I did tend to stay quiet because I was 13 when we moved down there. It was obviously the hunting ban was not in play at that point, but was being debated through Parliament. So I tended to stay quiet about it then, whereas now I'm like, I've hunted since I could walk. You can either suck that up or find someone that cares, because it's not me. So yeah, I tended to stay a bit quieter, but I did have a stand-up row in the classroom with my religious education teacher about fox hunting at the time. Fun.
Yeah. Do you find that your dad doing that, you be involved in that, polarise people towards you or not, rather than just look at you as a person?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to not talk about it for fear of upsetting people, and I'm like you now. I just said, "I just fuck off. I'm not interested." You know.
Yeah,
I've
fallen out with people permanently because I was like, why do I have to hide where I've been and what I've done this weekend because it's offending you? Like,
yeah. Someone who's never been in the countryside, never experienced it, hasn't got a fucking clue, lives in London, driving a fucking 4-wheel drive in Chelsea, tells you what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
That actually sorry, Kat.
I've actually got a friend who was living up in London, but who's virtually vegan, but will eat the odd, organic free range meat. I can't believe you go pheasant shooting, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, are you still eating meat? She went, yeah. I went, right. So even your free range organic chicken, if they're going in and clearing out that shed, all those chickens are going to die. I said, that pheasant might have been poaching around the wood with his mates for the last 4 years before he's been shot. And she was like, okay, when you put it that way. I was like, you're eating it as ethically as you can, but that pheasant's had a far better life and it doesn't cost anything for me.
I think we're at a point where we're going to go full circle, though. I really do. The same way pest control seems to be coming back to trapping, I think all that fucking softness is gonna go. I think people are a lot more in tune with it. Thoughts, Al?
I want to ask you, so when it comes to foxes and fox hunting, of course, incredibly divisive. The issue mostly being that you can't get away from the fact that they are a little wild dog, and that is what they are. However, they are a pest. Now, away from the rural foxes, because that's one thing, the rise in urban foxes is what really interests me, because there are, I don't think there is a city in the UK now that doesn't have a resident population of foxes, and we have a very limited scope as to what we can do with them these days. So away from the fox hunt and more to the sort of like the practical fox control, should we be should this be more of a thought process for us? Should be more of a concern? Because I mean, and to put this in perspective, I was at a PestX, not the last one, the one before, walking across the bridge back to my hotel over the between the Excel Centre and the other side, and coming across the bridge, fox. I was like, oh my god, bold as brass. And it walked along. And
did it have high heels on?
No, little scratchy feet. Why do you hate me tonight? With this, but whether or not it had caught it itself or found it on the floor, it had a little moggy in its mouth, and that is definitely a thing. And this is the rise of urban foxes. Just your views on it now, because I think there's definitely some merit in talking about this, because it used to be a rural problem and now I think it's much more an urban one.
I don't obviously do a massive amount with urban foxes. I have a terrier, so I don't really like shooting foxes. But I think, people think, oh yeah, they're really cute until they've taken their pets or they've attacked their child, and it does happen. People go, oh no, they won't do. They have attacked small babies and all the rest of it, and they're just, because they've got no fear of humans, they're becoming more of a problem because they just Matt, don't start on the badgers.
This is like Neil. I love you, right? I love Neil, and I don't want to take this personal because I know Neil does, but that's a fucking load of shit. That I think most fox problems can be solved with a good fence. What a load of shit! Just not true, mate. They'll climb I've seen foxes climb 12-foot fences like that. It doesn't stop them. They'll dig under them. They'll go over them. They don't give a fuck.
Our fence panels are 6 foot and they'll come over that. We get foxes in the garden quite a lot. We've also got a local rescue that we think are releasing them locally, because the amount of foxes that are looking completely tapped but healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. And you can tell as well, because when you go out lamping them, they're fucking green as grass as well, aren't they?
Just sit there looking
Like
at
they
you.
stand there and they're like that. Ooh, big torch. I think I'm in the spotlight. You're fucking right, you are.
Light at the end of the tunnel, click of a switch and off to go and see Jesus. So there we go. Neil, we love you. Sean loves you.
I know, I do love you, Neil. Just you said it, yeah. Do you know what it is, though, Kat? I'm being deadly serious. If you're capable of trapping a fox in a live catch trap, down where you are, I think, what do you reckon? I think you will be surprised if you get yourself a little bit of a name for yourself. Yeah, you don't mind traveling to catch a fox, or you know what you're doing, and you start looking at connected traps and all that sort of stuff. I think there'll be money to be made in that, especially when you talk, if you don't mind traveling in for them urban foxes that are grabbing chickens and causing problems, or a lot of the fox work, and people will probably shoot us down, but a lot of the jobs we've had, it's got nothing to do with them grabbing chickens. It's usually because they're getting into warehouses, they're shitting on stuff, they're causing a fucking mess, they're a total nightmare. They're tipping the bins out, and then they're screaming when they're coming to mating and keeping people awake, or they're undermining the sheds and things like that. And when you switch on to that, as Billy says, there is money to be made in it, because there's very few people who are capable of doing it, and doing it efficiently.
So I'll tell you a funny story, because I can see Kat's winding up for one, but I just want to jump in first.
Yeah.
I did some consultancy work a little while back, and I went to a large football stadium in London, and they showed me very proudly on CCTV footage. I had a problem with a fox, and the problem with the fox is it was then getting into one of the concession stands, getting some food, usually sort of like hot dogs and the rest of it. But the big problem was it was taking eating the hot dogs, and then taking a couple of hot dogs and running out into the middle of the pitch, digging a hole in the middle of the football pitch, this massive thing, just dropping the sausages into it, covering it back over.
Yeah.
And they were like, we were so confused, because for ages we were just finding holes filled with sausages in our sort of £1 million turf that people run about over the day. You don't think of that as being a problem, really, do you? Here we are.
Tell you what,
sorry,
nearly every contract that we've got that we've had a fox off, you speak to them and say, oh yeah, rats, mice, blah, blah, blah. There's a fox kicking about, and you go, don't worry, we'll leave that where it is, because it's nature's pest controller and we're happy to have it there. And I think that's money in the bank. Because I know at some point it's going to become a pain in the sauce. It's going to start tipping the bins out. It's going to start creating a mess. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. It might take 2-3 years, but at some point, and there's very few people who can do it properly. Very few. John Stewart. No, John Stewart, Al?
Yep.
He's good at it. He can do it. Big Scottish guy, walloping them in Glasgow, isn't he? Yeah.
So come on, Kat, you've been itching to contribute to this.
No. So further across the village, there's a company called Walks with Hawks that do stuff for Help for Heroes. With they've got a load of birds of prey, and they have a live catch fox trap out the front of their aviary permanently, and they catch about 30 foxes a year in it. And then not where I am, my house backs onto a field, then the airport. So we're kind of like right on the edge of the village. They're further into the village and still catch. Yeah, a ridiculous amount of foxes every blooming year. Because like I said, I think we've got a local rescue that are releasing them. Like we've had one next door, had one on their decking in the middle of the daytime, just looked like it was neurologically, just didn't look well. Yeah.
But
okay, we'll just let them out. They'll be fine. They'll fend for themselves perfectly.
Oh yeah. Now the local hunt at my place, I won't say which one it is. I won't drag them into it. But it was snowing. You could see the fox had come in, had jumped up on the wall, and it went along the wall and got into the flesh house and was eating the flesh in the middle of winter. Do you know what I mean? Like it was that brazen. It knew that them hounds wouldn't get out, and it knew exactly what to do. The hounds would go ballistic. They'd start fighting because they were that wound up. You'd be shouting at the hounds, telling them off. And then you come out and you'd be like, "Fucking hell, it's been a fox there. That's what set them off." And they are absolutely like cute as a button, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I've got a question. So there's Sean said something, and I don't think this is quite factually correct. So I want to address it just before we go any further. So, fox hunting isn't banned. There's a bird of prey loophole, and that's how it hasn't really stopped. I don't believe that's correct, because I believe that fox hunting.
Fox hunting was banned in 2004. You can use two foxes, two hounds to bolt for guns.
Yeah.
Or bird of prey. But
yeah,
it's banned.
It is banned. Yeah, I thought it was, and I don't believe so. Just in the spirit of sort of like making sure that we have all of the facts at our disposal.
I think what Sean's talking about. I can tell you what Sean's talking about. Early on, they tried to test it, and what they did was they took their pack of hounds out, and they took a golden eagle on their arm. One person rode along on the horse and went, "No, we're good for the." And if I remember rightly, it was a prosecution. That testing of the loophole lasted about as long as me and Pope. I
think everyone was too shit scared of the golden eagle. That was the problem.
Yeah. But it did. I tell you where else they tried it. They tried it with the Waterloo Cup as well, because didn't Mark Prescott in One of the Two Fat Ladies get prosecuted over it? Remember the two fat ladies, Clarissa?
Yeah. I was at the last Waterloo Cup, and she was up there then.
Yeah, they prosecuted them. It was something. It was hair course, and it was exactly the same thing. They basically ran the Waterloo Cup absolutely exactly as they would have, with a bird of prey in the background, and went, no, we're doing it for bird of prey. And they were both, I'm absolutely convinced, Mark Prescott, the racehorse trainer, and Clarissa, what's that fucking name again? Clarissa Dixon Wright were both prosecuted under the and it was under the same offence, wasn't it? Whatever, I can't remember what it is now, but not the Wild Mammals Act, but one of them, they were definitely walloped. Does happen, doesn't it? Does happen. We can lie about it, but it does happen.
Yeah.
Who cares? Not me.
So back to pest management and not the nitty-gritty of fox control. With this, so you're doing moles at the moment. You're wanting to get this. Are you ever wanting to look more urbanized, or are you really happy just being the village pest controller?
I mean, I do urban rats and things like that. I'm not completely rural, but yeah, I like doing all of it really. I think bird proofing's not something I've done, and I'm just not sure whether I'd want to do that. I feel like it's another skill set that I haven't got and haven't acquired yet.
Kind of very much feels like you live in an affluent area where there's going to be a lot of solar panels. That's definitely got to be worth a penny or two.
They have, but it's also then trying to get up to them in the middle of Cheltenham when you can't even park a car out the front of there, never mind anything else. It's one of those big jobs that I feel is probably beyond me.
Nothing's beyond you.
There's definitely some besties that we know that have bought their cabs with a little sort of like cherry picker attached to the back of them, specifically to sort of like do bee removals and do installs. You like shiny kit, maybe a nice new van with a kinetic arm on the back would be just the thing to get there. But yes, there are comments coming in, and we probably do have to ask. Jeff's asking, any funny stories about controlling inmates?
Oh God, yeah.
Nothing that's going to get you prematurely fired from your job, though?
They haven't got enough staff to fire me. It's fine.
Okay. You just don't want to find yourself standing next to the inmates, though.
There was one when I managed, because I work in a female prison, and people these days like to identify as whatever they want to identify as. That's fine. That's not affecting my health or well-being. But one of them had been authorised to have a prosthetic penis, and we had to strip search them because they were self-harming. So we had to take their clothes from them to put them into safer clothing so they couldn't ligature. I'm cutting the clothes off with a fish knife, which is like a safety knife. And I've pulled, and this prosthetic penis has stretched like Stretch Armstrong. And I looked.
Regular penises do that too. Just you shouldn't do
not like that. Not like that. And I looked at my colleague, and you just like, don't look at me because I'm going to start laughing, and that's really unprofessional. So I managed to like threw it out of the cell door where it hit my governor, and then bounced off down the corridor. Yeah. And he was really, really broad as well. So it was a very sort of like, what the fuck was that? And I'm like, that's just a
So, thank you, Jeff. It seems like you've opened a can of worms there. So, moving back to Pest Management, as opposed to the Stretch Armstrong penis of Cheltenham. Have you joined either of the traders? Sean's dead. We've lost him. Have you joined either of the trade associations? This is a question. Being fresh in the industry, have you joined either of the trade associations? Have you got a desire to?
So I was a basic member last year because I had it free with doing my insecticide course for Killgen. I haven't yet renewed it, partly because I am absolutely brassic at the minute, and I got really peed off with chasing them to get my points for everything put on all the time. Which, yeah.
Were you with basis?
I feel like I'm opening a can of worms here. Yeah, basis. Yeah. Yeah,
you wouldn't be the only one to have that concern.
What am I paying for when I'm having to chase you for something that I did 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, we won't necessarily get into CPD registers because that is something we've spoken about at length. But it is interesting that trade association, however, small startup business cost is a factor. But I think if you speak to either of the trade associations, they do make allowances for people who are within the first 48 months of business. So do speak to them, because I think there are prorated rates for people who have been in the industry not a long time, because that's the people that they want to assist. So pick your favorite one, go and have a word with them. There's always a deal to be had. But when it comes to CPD, how are you keeping up to date? From your letterbox view, how are you keeping up to date with just your continued professional development?
So far, this year has just been a blur, and I haven't done anything yet. I was doing the NPTA breakfast meeting thingies. I went to Pest Tech. Magazines, but normally I borrowed them off somebody else. I need to probably be a bit more on it, but as I haven't paid my basis membership yet, my CPD points are irrelevant.
Well, they'll be irrelevant until 2026, and then they're going to become very relevant to everyone indeed. But it's interesting that you say that the breakfast meets, because there's always a bit of toing and froing with those, isn't there, where people say, why should you get CPD points for just turning up and having a bacon roll and the rest of it? But genuinely, there is some value in them, especially for folks who are starting off. So, I mean, what's been your favourite talk so far at the breakfast meets?
I think for me, especially being, working on my own, it's actually a chance to kind of see people and network rather than learn. It's actually nice to see other people rather than, spending all your time working on your own and not having anyone to chat to. Actually, seeing people and chatting, what they've been up to and things like that. That's for me more what I use them for.
Absolutely. They are wonderful places to meet people who are local to you, to share knowledge and information. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm going to get back on my soapbox, sit down, settle down, story time with Alex now. We are significantly more value in cooperation than competition. We all do something different. Pest management is a huge umbrella of specialties loosely held together with this nuts and bolts of rats and mice, and then all the other bits on around the side. And the opportunity to network and find someone who does do bird work, who can either foster you and take you on, or just simply take you under their wing, or thank you so much. Or be able to someone that you can trust to sort of pass that work on to without the fear of them, taking other. And I think that's the real joy of these breakfast meets by far and away. Along with meeting all the manufacturers and distributors and putting a name to a face. Absolutely perfect. But there we go. Sean, you've got your thinky face on.
No, I just think, and the one thing I'd say about CPD and the reason why we like it, it's not obviously you get to learn and stuff. But I honestly believe, hand on my heart, that it is the glue that holds us all together. If you think of your 5 or 6 friends in pest control that you talk to the most, and then think about how you met them, I'll guarantee you that 99% of them you met at a CPD event, whether that's a morning, an afternoon, or whatever it is that you've been to. You went on a course, a level 2 or this or that. You bump into people, you swap numbers, and then you end up, I certainly have, I've ended up keeping in touch with people for a very, very, very long time, and they're always there, aren't they? So You know, it's not just what you learn on that day. It's what you learn on every day afterwards, ringing them and speaking to them. And if you're that way, some of you are fucking miserable and don't talk to anyone, aren't you? But as a general rule, those who do pick up the phone and ring each other do very well out of it, don't you? The worst thing you can do, in my opinion, from a business point of view, is isolate yourself from other pest controllers. Like you think they're your competition, but they're not. Like they are your crutch, they are your scaffold, they're everything you'll need to get to where you want to be. I believe that's what I would say. You know, me off my soapbox. What's this? Networking is essential for business and a something aspect of working together as a sole trader. Psychological, that word there. However, I'm putting my neck in the line here by saying it's not continual professional development.
I think Lulu's talking specifically about the networking aspect. I can see where she's coming from, because the networking is networking. It is essential to business growth. And as you said, we're all sole traders. We're all working independently a lot of the time on our own. So having that network is invaluable. But the networking aspect of the brunch meetings is not the CPD. The CPD is the learning that you do around the industry and keeping up to date. But there we go. There we go. I think I've hit it nail on the head there. Done, done, done. Hugh says continuing development is better than delayed perfection. And I think that's a really good statement as well. Kat, while we come into the last 10 minutes, we've started to do this and it's actually quite fun. Do you have any questions for me and Sean? What are the burning questions that you have about the industry that you would love to know about?
Oh, wow. Now I don't know.
The tables have turned on us.
I don't know why you think me and Alex could answer that.
I like a challenge, and also, you know, between me and Sean, we know everything. Because if I don't know it, he absolutely does.
I don't. I know fuck all. I promise you. People say stuff to me. I'm like, I promise you, Kat. If you ever ring me up and ask me something, do the total opposite, and you'll probably be about right.
Okay, so why did you two both get into pest control? I'm going to flip it around.
I'll go with that. I'm technically second generation pest controller. I'm a legacy. My father did pest control all over the world and then started a business doing it. So wouldn't say it's in my blood, because that's a weird way of putting it, but screw it, it's in my blood. I haven't wanted to do anything else. You know, I did my work experience in the pest management industry, working in the factories. I went to university and I thought, I'm going to get away from this. I took marine biology and oceanography. You know, I learned how to keep things alive in the sea, and then decided that the sea is a vapid and horrible place, and it's just full of things that want to murder you at any given opportunity. Nobody should get in the sea. It's dumb as a bag of rocks. And so I left and decided that I was much better at making small crunchy things fall over, and so that became my life. And that's all I've ever done, and it's all I've ever wanted to do. For me, it's a career and a passion, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge, as you say, that the element of detective work to it. There's never a day that's the same. So there we go. That's how I got there. Sean?
I was just the kid that always was into the country. I always joke and I say one of my teachers said I had a natural proclivity for killing things when I was younger. Sounds a bit sort of murderous, but it was in a different context. But that was it, you know. I think you'll probably get it, Kat, when you are that little boy who loves being outside, who loves messing on with ferrets and snares and rabbiting and all that sort of stuff. It was just, you know, I'd go home, I'd go out, would go fishing, would do everything we possibly could. And I was just talked out of it, you know. It's not a future, you're never going to get a job, you're never going to get a worthwhile job, etc., etc. And then I was a farrier. I'm a farrier by trade, yeah. So I was doing that, my back was hurting, my legs were hurting, everything was hurting. I was rapidly getting to a point where I was breaking down. So I saved up some money, got a website built, and thought, when I break, I'll do this. And then the phone started ringing, and the rest is history. Within about, 10, 12 months or something, I'd stopped shoeing altogether. Maybe it's 18 months. I stopped shoeing altogether. Ellis tells a story, actually. When Ellis first worked for me, he used to open the back of the transit van, because it was the up-over doors, and there was an armful of fire and shoes and all that, because I was still shoeing to make the money to support the pest control at that point. Alice was with us for about a year, I think, or something, before I eventually really spat me dummy out and pulled everything out of the van and just said, that's it, I'm fucking done with it, and went pest control and never looked back. And then you realise that, and this is why I was saying to you, you realise that the skills that you attributed when you were younger, and you won't realise this yet, I promise you, will absolutely define you and set you apart from your competitors. Because there's a lot of people out there who are pest controllers who do a very good job. I'm not saying they don't. They do what they do incredibly well, but they couldn't trap a bag of sand. I promise you, they couldn't. They just couldn't. And then there's another set of pest controllers, and it sounds a bit weird to say it, but they can see how to kill stuff. And I don't mean in a weird way. I mean, they can walk into a house and they can go, I can see what's going on. I can see where they're coming from. I can work this out. They just have that natural proclivity for being able to spot what's going on. Then there's other sort of process-driven guys who'll go in and they'll follow the processes. We put a box every 10 meters, and there's no right or wrong. It works for both. But if you've got that natural ability, which you will have if you've been doing what you're doing, like, it will set you apart as long as you learn to embrace it and don't go down the route of trying to be the other type of pest controller. That's what I would say, anyways.
Yeah, there's some life. That was literally the question I was going to ask you, because I know about your farrowing. What's the plural of farriers? Farrying?
Farriering?
Farrying?
Sorry, what? Hang on a second. Am I going to teach Alex the big words here? Go on, Alex. You're asking the plural of what?
Farrier. So when you're doing farrier work, like when you're doing the work, what's
farriery?
It called? Farriery, right?
Farriery,
Okay.
yeah.
So Kat's, of course, bridging between two worlds at the moment, and she's looking to sort of like take the leap full time. Your bit of advice, you did that as well, when you were doing farrier. And a lot of pest managers are doing the same thing. What's the big bit of advice you can give Kat right now? Jump in with both feet, build up a safety net.
Go for it. I tell you what happened with me. So the idea was that we would. This fucking camera's doing my tits in. It's got like this tracking thing on. Hang on a second. This looks a bit weird, but if you wait there, that might work. Does it shit? The idea was that they were like this. Farry was up here and pest control was down there. And I thought, as I built one, we would get to a point where they would be level, and I could jump from one to the other and do this. Yeah. That was the idea, but it didn't happen. What happened was they went from there, got to there, and then stopped. Because the harsh reality is that your time is valuable, and you can only put your time into one thing. So while you are putting your time into being a farrier, you are not putting your time into being a pest controller. And what every business needs, it's like a baby. You've got to feed it. You've got to feed it all the time. And the more you feed it and the more you put into it, the bigger and better it gets. And it just stopped. So I was like, and it just got to a point where I knew that I had to do one or two things. I either needed to shut the pest control down because I wasn't giving it what it wanted, or I had to shut the farrier down. I had to make a jump. And I was absolutely shitting my pants. And I jumped, and it's like, it's great. And there's a saying, isn't there? I don't know who said it. Alan probably know because he's dead bright. But I promise you, it's true. It says, was it first your dreams appear impossible, then they appear improbable, and eventually you realise they're inevitable. And that's why I was asking you earlier when you said 10 grand a month, I'd be over the moon. Like when you hear that, you think, no, that's never going to happen. Then at some point you'll think, fuck me, there's a chance this is going to happen. And then there'll be a point where you hit where you go, it's inevitable, it's got to happen. But everything will go up with it. You've just got to go for it. Yeah, it won't work. The problem is, isn't it? If you're not giving it 100%, your competitor is. And it's as easy as that. You've got to fucking go for it. Just blast through it and take the pain. What's the worst that can happen? You fail and then you've got to go and get a job. But I'd rather do that than not know. Like, I promise you, just go for it. Just go for it. Go for it today. And I think you'll get there, won't you?
I can. Oh, sorry, it's Kat. What are you saying?
I said, yeah, I'll get there eventually. I'm just really passionate about being able to afford food in the meantime.
Why do you work? I'm passionate about eating and keeping warm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are so many people that listen to this, and like we're such a small community. It is, there's about 10,000 pest managers in the UK. That's not enough to fill the away stadium of a Premier League football team, and we are a close-knit community. And people who are just freshly starting out are the future of this industry. And so, I solidly hope people reach out to you after this podcast and say, hey, here is some help and support and the rest of it, and it should be great from that. But with that, I think that's bringing us up to 1 hour 30 minutes on the nose. I'm just waiting for the inevitable message from Hugh telling us.
Yeah, tells off, doesn't he? People don't know this, but Hugh proper gives him a shit over it, doesn't he? Because Hugh's a producer and Hugh likes it and he knows what he wants, and he's like, I get a message, time! Exclamation mark. All right, Hugh, calm down.
I'll chat on the side. But he has reminded us, just before we go on to our last 3 questions of the night, coming up we have Savas Orthan from the Pest Professionals Network that's started up, joining us next week. So that should be a really good one for anyone that wants to join in. But for right now, let's get to our famous last 3 questions. So, Kat, you told me you've watched the podcast before, so you should be fully aware of what we're about to throw at you here. So I'll ask the first one. Have you enjoyed your time on the podcast tonight?
Yes, I have. It's been glorious chaos.
Yes, that's it. I think that might be our new tagline. In fact, Hugh, if you're listening, that absolutely is going to be the tagline for the show. Glorious chaos. I think that's absolutely beautiful. There we go. Sean.
Yeah. Give us a shameless plug.
Oh my God. What, 3-pin or?
Yeah.
I could have said something else, right? That was tame.
No one's done that yet. We've been going for 86 episodes, and no one's thought of that. Might I suggest you plug your business and location?
Yeah, your business, maybe. Yeah. Pest Controller for all your
yeah. Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, everywhere around there.
Yeah.
Especially for moles.
Especially for moles and deer and everything else.
Wildlife management. That's a lovely umbrella
wildlife
term,
management.
isn't it?
That's a very good
wildlife
umbrella.
Management. There we go. So the Pink Pest Controller in Cheltenham for wildlife management. Absolutely perfect. And the last one, who would you like to see on Beauties and Beasties next?
If you think this one's been chaos, you should get my best friend Heidi Baker Caldicott, HBC Pest, on here, because Can
we get you both on together?
I was just going to say, my other half's you two literally podcast each other, because all we do is send voice notes. So yeah, that could be chaos.
Right, Hugh, you've got a mission.
You would definitely be going, you're over the time limit.
We don't care. It's fine. That's all good, right?
Can you remember, Al? The only one where we come up to time and we didn't get time with an exclamation mark was we got let it run with an exclamation mark. Was Joseph Carter, wasn't it? Because he was just off on one, wasn't he? He was screaming and shouting. He was like, keep him going, keep him going. He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant.
He was I think what's the expression, like a box of spiders, like a big bag of spiders, just absolute chaos. This is the podcast from all of our American audience. I love you to bits. You're wonderful. I love that we've got such a followership over there. But these are our words, and stop giving our words dirty meanings straight away. Drawing a line under this now. I'm afraid of the words I can use. I'm just going to go back to Latin or something, so there's no confusion. There we go. Right. I think that's us done for the night, isn't it, guys? Like I say, we've got Savas next week from Pest Partnership. I apologise. So he'll be joining us, and he'll be talking about how Pest Partnership's vision is growing on that. But other than that, I think that's good night from me.
Good night from me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Beauties and Beasties podcast.